There are some disasters that give people hours to escape. Some give them minutes. But sometimes nature gives you only seconds. On August 26, 2026, people in Nepal were living an ordinary day. Families were together, tourists were traveling through the mountains, and workers were doing their jobs. Nobody knew that within moments, their entire world was about to change. Then, the mountains moved. A massive collapse of ice, rock, and debris triggered a devastating flash flood in the Himalayan region of Nepal. And what happened next left behind destruction, silence, and hundreds of families waiting for answers. Imagine standing in a valley surrounded by the Himalayas and suddenly hearing something coming from the mountains. Not a car, not a normal river, but a deep, terrifying roar. Water, rocks, mud, and ice were moving together at incredible speed. People had almost no time to understand what was happening. The flood rushed through the river system, destroying whatever stood in its path. Bridges disappeared, roads were ripped apart, buildings were damaged or completely destroyed, and people simply ran for their lives. Some managed to escape, others were not so lucky. When the water finally moved away, the real nightmare began. Rescuers entered areas that only hours earlier had been full of life, but now there was mud everywhere. Broken buildings, destroyed roads, twisted metal, and massive piles of debris. The Nepal Army, police, and rescue teams began searching for survivors. But there was one major problem. The mountains themselves had become dangerous. Roads had disappeared, communication was disrupted, and unstable slopes created the risk of more landslides. Every minute mattered, because somewhere beneath the destruction, someone could still be alive. As rescuers continued their search, the death toll kept rising. Latest reports put the number of confirmed deaths at around 389, with hundreds more injured or rescued and many people still reported missing. But these aren't just numbers. Think about that for a moment. 389 people means 389 families, 389 groups of people who may never hear the voice of their loved one again. And for the families of those still missing, the nightmare isn't over. They are waiting for a phone call, waiting for a name on a list, waiting for someone to say, "We found them." Nepal attracts people from all over the world. People travel there to see the Himalayas, to visit sacred places, and to experience some of the most beautiful landscapes on Earth. But during this disaster, some foreign tourists and pilgrims were caught in the affected areas. Families thousands of kilometers away were suddenly asking the same question. Are they safe? Embassies and authorities began trying to locate their citizens. Rescue teams searched damaged areas, and phones around the world kept ringing, with families desperately waiting for answers. But what caused this disaster? The Himalayas are beautiful, but they are also extremely powerful and unpredictable. Initial information pointed toward a massive ice and rock collapse in the high mountains. When that material entered the river system, the amount of water and debris moving downstream became devastating. Scientists have repeatedly warned that the Himalayan region is experiencing major environmental changes. Glaciers are shrinking, temperatures are changing, and mountain slopes can become unstable. And when huge amounts of ice and rock suddenly collapse, a river can turn into a deadly force within seconds. But perhaps the saddest part comes after the flood. When the headlines disappear, people still have to go home. Except for some, there is no home left. A child may return to school without a parent. A family may stand where their house once stood. A shopkeeper may look at what remains of their business. And somewhere, someone may still be waiting for a missing family member. This is what disaster looks like after the water disappears. Silence, loss, and questions. But in the middle of this tragedy, there are also stories of courage. Rescue workers continue searching dangerous areas. Some work for hours without rest. They enter places where another landslide could happen at any moment. They search through mud and debris, hoping to find a heartbeat, hoping to hear a voice, hoping that one more person can be brought home alive. Because for a rescuer, one survivor can make every dangerous hour worth it. The Nepal disaster is more than a tragedy. It is also a warning. The Himalayas are changing, and communities living near rivers and mountain slopes need better warning systems, better disaster preparation, and faster emergency response. Because the next disaster may not give people enough time to run. The mountains of Nepal will still be beautiful tomorrow. The rivers will continue to flow, tourists will eventually return, and roads will slowly be rebuilt. But for the families who lost someone, nothing will ever be the same. For them, August 26th wasn't just another day. It was the day the mountains came down, the day a normal life turned into a desperate search.